We discussed yesterday that Rebbe Yosser had said that if you bring a get from Bovel to Eretz Yisrael, one doesn't have to say Poni Estefani Nechtam. So Rav Yosef, when he heard the ruling, Rav Yosef says, firstly, who said he's a Bar Samcha? Who said he's reliable? Who said he's credible within the context of Psak? Secondly, he had written a Posuk, and when he wrote the Posuk, he didn't score the parchment before he wrote the words. And the halacha is, he quoted two sources. Either if you write 3 words, you have to score the parchment, or if you write 4 words, you have to score the parchment. And the Posuk that he quoted was more than 4 words. He didn't score the parchment. So you see, he did the wrong thing. So therefore, there's an indication that being a credible person is not so simple. So Rabbi responded, he said, firstly, he says, a person that, the Askim Mori al Yodei, first he says, that he didn't know the halacha of scoring parchment, that is not indication that he's not a Gavur Rabba. He's not aware of that what? That's Masorah. If it's something which is based on logic, because he doesn't have that logical mind, so you see there's a fallacy in his logic. So, but this, that you have to score the parchment, either you know it, you don't know it. So if he doesn't know it, it's not the end of the world. So it doesn't reflect negatively on him. Secondly, you see he's a person that Askim Mori al Yodei. So Rashi learns that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed him the secret of something, and even HaKadosh Baruch Hu quotes him, because it tells out the story. He met Eliyahu Navi, and he asked Eliyahu, what is Hashem doing at this moment? And he says right now he's studying the subject matter of Peleg Shebegivo, and he says, the question is, why did she flee from her house, from her husband? Was it because the husband found a fly in the food, or because of a hair, which we'll discuss today? He says, Rav Yosef Bini says this, Rabbi Yonason, and Yonason says this. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is quoting them, evidently he's not an ordinary person. So therefore he's definitely credible. So I pointed out, that he engaged in a dialogue with Eliyahu Navi is not an indication he's a Gavur Rabba. Gavur Rabba means either you know or you don't know. The Gavur Rabba was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was quoting him within the context of interpretation of Torah. That's the indication he's a Gavur Rabba. But Gavur Rabba means that there's no fallacy in your logic. That's Gavur Rabba. Was the Rahi. So Rabbi Yosef says, how could he say Yonason Bini and Rabbi Yosef Bini, Elu, right? Either it's A or B. There's no Sofi by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What happened? So he said, Elu Divrei Elokim Chaim. That's where we left off yesterday. He says, no, they're both correct. The question is, what was the primary reason why she fled? Was it because of the fly, or was it because of the what? Of the hair? Both happened. He found the fly in the food, the fly in the ointment, and he had a problem with the hair, with the pubic hair. Well, this essentially found hair in the food. But what was the primary reason? But now, there's a famous Ritva, and we had an Erevin. What is Eila? Beis Shammai says Osir, Beis Hillel says Mutter. Right? Beis Hillel, the majority of rulings, is lenient. Beis Shammai is Machmir, is stringent. So the Gemara says, Eila ve'el divrei Elokim Chaim. They're both correct. So how could they? Either it's Osir or it's Mutter. You can't. If it's day or night, you can't have both. Right? So what would you say, David?
How we deal with it? Both of them correct. Why would we bring down? I mean, there's Mishnah. Why would we bring down Beis Shammai?
No, there's no proof. That's no proof. I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm saying facetiously. Right? I said, David, what's the answer? He gives me his answer. Then I give the real answer. Now you understand what's right and what's wrong. Right? So to appreciate the right, you have to see what's not right. Lahavdil. Beis Shammai, you can only fully appreciate Beis Hillel's position if you understand the opposing position. That's the reason why, otherwise there's always a question. Why even cite Beis Shammai Mokum Beis Hillel in a Mishnah? He has no value whatsoever, so why even cite his opinion? But whenever we have a Machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, he's first, throughout every Mishnah, first Beis Shammai's position stated, then Beis Hillel's position stated. Right? Why? The answer is because you can only fully appreciate and comprehend fully Beis Hillel if you fully understand the position of Beis Shammai. And now you understand, you'll see the difference. That's the reason.
But the Talmud
So it has no. So what does that do? Either it's right or wrong. The Gemara says, Eilu ve'el divrei Klim Chaim. Beis Hillel is right, Beis Shammai is right. They can't both be right.
Well, the Talmud says that at the end of times, when Mashiach comes, that Bet Shammai will be right.
Okay? Many years ago, somebody quoted that, and I said to him, show me the source for that. Right? It's not simple. Not simple. You know, there's an Orach Chaim HaKodesh somewhere that says that Chazir is a pig. Pig. The reason why it's called Chazir, because it's going to be Choser, to be a kosher animal at the end of time. It's going to have both kosher signs. Today it only has split hooves, but ultimately, and then it's going to be Choser, that it's going to have both signs. Chew its cud and have split hooves. He brings a Chazal, the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. So at the end of time, but again, where's the source? I'm not sure what the source of this is. But even so, but today's day and age, for today, could it be Divrei Kim Chaim? Is it right or wrong? And also, how do you understand? Beis Shammai is not right today, but then it will be right. Is it right or wrong? Right. So.
We have a different level of understanding at the end of time.
You mean so now? Our understanding is limited. So we're doing the wrong thing, but because we don't understand, that's what we're doing it.
Can't we say according to Hashem, they're both right, but it's up to us to decide?
Oh, listen, what Ernie's saying, that the Ritva cites a Midrash. The Ritva cites a Midrash. It says when Moshe Rabbeinu was Olu L'Morom, he sent it to Shavayim to receive the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Beis Shammai say this, Beis Hillel says this. So Moshe says, there's only one understanding of Torah. What do you mean? Beis Shammai says this, Beis Hillel says that. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, whatever Bezdin Shel Matar decides, that's correct. Why? So he says, because the Torah is given to interpret with Yud Gimel Midas Yashar Nidreshes by him. Right? Meaning, as long as there's no fallacy in logic, and it conforms with the methodology of interpretation of Torah, that's emes. But you understand, there are nuances. What do you feel is more correct? That's up to the human being. As long as it conforms with and it's within the parameters Hashem sets forth, they're both correct. There's no fallacy in the process of coming upon your decision. The question is, like, let's say I hear two positions. They both they're cogent, but one seems to be more cogent. But you can't find any fallacy in logic in either one of them. That means they're both logically sound. It's just which one's more. That's Eilu Divrei Klim Chaim. That's the Ritva. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? This is the concept of Lo B'Shamayim. Right? Lo B'Shamayim. The Kavaskol says Halach Reb Lezer. Reb Shua says Lo B'Shamayim, because it was given to us based on the way we process things, what we sense. But factually, today we don't say Eilu Divrei Klim Chaim any longer. The Maharal says that after the period of the Rishonim, we don't say it any longer. Why? Because factually, the intellect of man, even though we believe it's correct and right, whatever it may be, you're not able to detect that fallacy in thinking or application. They're not necessarily that comparable. We're not able to detect that. Therefore, one is right, one is wrong. Who's right? They both be wrong. They both may be incorrect. Who knows what? We don't say it any longer.
Why do we always
So the Gemara says, because they were Rov. Beis Hillel was Rov. That's the reason why. They were the majority.
So at the time, it was decided when they were both arguing out sometime later. So the Shammai gave up their position and they
The Shammai kept their position. This is the third. See, if you're the observer from the outside, how do I deal with it? The Torah says you have an irresolvable question, you go after Rov. The Shammai had no question. They believed, they're correct. Right? The Gemara says only because Acharam Lahatos, you go after majority. But that's only if you think it's irresolvable. Beis Shammai didn't think it was irresolvable. We believe we're right. So Beis Shammai stuck to their guns. They kept their position. They didn't change. It's for the masses. how do they live their lives? According to Hisham Beis Hillel. According to Beis Hillel. Because since they're not in a position to determine who's right, who's wrong, so therefore what do you do when you can't make that determination? You go after the majority. So therefore we rule like Beis Hillel. So Tosfos asks a question in Eruvin, in Yevamos. So what did you need? It says you had the Basko. What do you need a Basko? Go after Rov. That's his question. Because it says it was a Basko. But Rov is always sufficient. What do we need a Basko? So Tosfos answers like this, says something interesting. The Gemara says that, the Gemara in Eruvin says, what were Beis Shammai? They were Harifi. They had keen minds. It was a level of genius which was beyond Beis Hillel. So the question was, does that make a difference? Does that make a difference? I mean, a person can be at such a level of understanding, you could have, quantitatively, you may outnumber it. But you're talking about, you're on different levels. So it's not even a question. You don't even think at that level. So it's not, the question never even began. Like I always say, Rav Moshe rules that Brooklyn is a Rosh Hashanah. Therefore you can't make an Eruv. Vada Rabbanim of Brooklyn, the rabbis, they disagree with Rav Moshe Feinstein. Understand? It's like saying, the elementary school in Ramaz, they disagree with Rav Moshe Feinstein because you have 1,000 kids versus one man, and he's not even 5 feet tall. You understand? Is that you go after Rov? Rov, you go after this. It's not a.
Right, so why didn't that Hillel just conceive?
No, that's it. No, that's what the Basko. That's the Basko. Basko says that difference doesn't make a difference. The Basko was only determining fact, not a halacha. The halacha is Rov. That's the halacha. But that's the contingent. You have to know the fact. That degree of genius, does that put them in another category, or they're still within the same category? Just because you're smarter than I am, that difference, does that make a difference? Whether within the same.
Why would, if that's the case, why wouldn't Moshe concede to the bottom?
No, because they're different. Because realities, they're a different level. There's no conceding.
Shammai's on a different level than Hillel.
No. Yeah, the Baskol said that different level doesn't make a difference. The different level doesn't make. That's what the Baskol. So that's the determined fact. Factually, that determines fact. Once I have that fact, now I have an irresolvable question. So they're both within the same classification. Who's right, who's wrong? You understand?
So then, if it determines fact, then the case is about the Rabbanim.
No. There's just the opposite. Fact or Moshe is head and shoulders above them.
You needed the basket.
There's not even. It's not a challenge even.
So you needed the basket.
To determine fact.
Yeah.
That they're all within the same classification category.
So
Now I could apply the principle of Rove.
without the basket, you can't have.
No, you can't apply Rove. Rove is only who's more right. If you don't have the Basco, it's not a question. Of course, Beis Shammai is more right, because Beis Hillel doesn't think on the level of Beis Shammai. It's not even a dispute.
So basically what you're saying is that they're pretty much equal.
I'll give you an
Shammai's
example.
a little bit-
Achronim cannot argue with the Rishonim, right? Why not? Because what the Rishon understands, the basis of the Rishon coming to his conclusion, the latter authority doesn't even fathom the basis for his ruling. So what you disagree, you're only disagreeing because it's as a result of a lack of understanding
When did the Basco occur
during their lifetime.
So why didn't Shammai, I don't understand, why didn't
No,
Shammai
because
say
they
no?
don't. No. Rove is only if you have a suffix. Beis Shammai says, we have no suffix. You know, the story I once told over. Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz, when he was 5 years old, he was a world-known child prodigy. And, the church was always looking for candidates for the priesthood. And his father was the chief rabbi in this community, and the bishop heard about him, and he sent a message to the father. He says, I would like to spend a few hours with your son. And at that age, when he's 5, 4 years, he already knew Tanakh, he knew Mishnayos, he knew everything by heart. So he comes into the chamber of the bishop.
Was that in Poland or?
Could be Poland. So he says to him, says, I understand you're a very bright boy, and I heard, you have the Bible and all the scriptures all committed to memory. He says, it's true? Yes, it's true. Whatever he says, yeah, it's true. Even the Mishnah of the Talmud, yeah, it's true. He says, I want to ask you a question. He says, do you believe everything that's written in the Bible? I said, definitely. He says, chapter, verse, in the portion of Mishpatim, it says that Acharab Nahatos, that you're obligated to follow majority. He said, the majority of the world. Do they believe in what the Jews believe, or do they believe what the Christians believe? The Christians that outnumber the Jews. So if that's the case, if you tell me you believe all the precepts stated in the Bible, you have to accept Christianity. Here, this old character taking advantage of a 5-year-old kid. So the little boy says to the priest, to the bishop, he says, what you're saying is correct, but I want to explain to you something. The Torah says that if you have an irresolvable question, you follow majority. He says, I have no question. There's only one truth, Judaism. That was the end of the discussion. Okay? Famous story. Wait a second before you ask the question. Beis Shammai had no question. They believed they were right. It's the masses. How do they determine who's more right? Beis Shammai says, no, Basco says they're in the same category of genius.
That's right.
Being slightly more doesn't mean you're...
Shammai, that has determined the fact that Hillel's opinion is...
No. Now we could talk about applying Rove.
Right.
So we have to set the standard. They're all on the same level. So now we have an irresolvable question. So the outsider has the irresolvable question. Shammai says, I have no irresolvable question. I know I'm right.
But once Shammai hears that Hillel is on his level, why
He still didn't concede.
Why didn't you take that into consideration?
Because I still feel I'm right.
Hillel's opinion is as valid as yours. That's what the Basco
No, which has a basis to be credible as yours.
That's correct.
Okay, good. But who has the question which is irresolvable? Shammai, not Shammai. The outsider.
If Arthur were running the Flatbush, theoretically, if they really felt that way, they could hold that the area was kosher.
They do hold it. They do.
They use it.
And they
they're
do.
fine.
Exactly.
Nobody else, but someone from the outside can't rule according to that.
Correct. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? There's a question which is asked here that the Gemara says, Lo b'shamayim. The story of Reb Lezer, right? The Basco said, we rule like Reb Lezer. Reb Shua said, Lo b'shamayim. So there's a question which is asked. The Gemara in Dav Gimel in Brochus, it says that Reb Yossi went into one of the rooms of Yerushalayim to daven. Comes out, who does he meet? He meets Eliyahu Hanavi. And Eliyahu says to ask him, he says, why did you say the Shemon Esrei in the rooms? He should have davened on the road. So he drew 3 halachas from the conversation, from that comment that Eliyahu said to him. You're not permitted to go into rooms. You should daven an abbreviated Shemon Esrei because you'll be distracted with the passerby, so on and so forth. So the Maratz Chiyus, who's one of the commentators, back of the Gemara asks, Eliyahu is Bashamayim. How did Rabbi Yossi extrapolate from the conversation 3 halachas? It's Lo Bashamayim. Right? So they give a number of answers. One answer they give is that let's say there's a Basco, and now hearing the Basco, you're able to process it with your own intellect, with the human intellect. And your conclusion is through your human intelligence, you say, I understand it to be correct. That's not Lo B'Shamayim. Lo B'Shamayim is it's irresolvable something, and the Shemaim says this is the halacha. That's Lo B'Shamayim. The human intellect is what determines what it is and what it's not. But it gives, and now I understand that's what it is. Of course, that has no relevance to Lo B'Shamayim. That's one. Another answer is Eliyahu, when he comes in this existence and he communicates, that's through Eliyahu was a Talmud Chacham. He was a prophet. So he's communicating. This is his Torah. That's not Lo B'Shamayim. That's the other answer. But there's a Gemara in Shabbos which we once had. The Gemara has a question: could you write a Sefer Torah, a tefillin, or mezuzah on a fish skin of a kosher species of fish? Okay, so the Gemara says, what is it then? What's the question? On a chicken skin, you could write a tefillin on a chicken skin because it's kosher species and it's a skin. What's the question with fish? Because even as much as you clean fish, there's a question. There's a certain smell. You can't extract a certain smell which may be considered disrespect. And it's not clear whether as much as you cleanse it and process it, is it sufficient? And the Gemara says teku. It's left unresolved. And it says Eliyahu, when he comes, he'll resolve it. So the question is, how could he resolve it? It's lo b'shamayim. So they say over there, the Maratz Chiyah says, there it's determined fact. It's not a halacha. Is it cleansed sufficiently? It's not cleansed. That's a fact. Telling you a fact. Once I know the fact, now I can apply the halacha. So now it's appropriate. It may be inappropriate. Why? Because it may have a certain uncleanliness which is considered inappropriate. So he just has to tell me the fact. It's okay. It's met the grade. Once it meets the grade, now I know it qualifies for tefillin. You can write tefillin on it. So again, revealing fact has nothing to do with lo b'shamayim. That's a lo b'shamayim. The Baskol said, Shammai's genius is not another dimension of genius. They're both within the same dimension. Therefore, okay, now it's what? It's considered a dispute. Now what do you do? It's irresolvable. You go after Rove. Okay. No, incorrect. I'm not agreeing. They're arguing what the Masorah was, and they're only proving whose Masorah is more accurate through the Yud Gimel Midas. You understand? Everything is Masorah. Beishama says, this is my Masorah. Beishil says, my Masorah is more accurate than yours, and I'll prove it to you. Logically, Yud Gimel Midas Torah addresses, there I will prove my. So Beishama comes back and says, no, but this is my take on it. And I prove mine. And that goes back and forth. Yes, it does. Whatever they decide, what's the decision? It's the application of their intellect, how to interpret. And each one comes back and the other one says, this is the way I understand it. Of course, because now there's a question what the Masorah was. Each one is coming to prove his Masorah. If there's one Masorah, of course there's one Masorah, right? It's only because there's a question what the Masorah. Each one said, my Masorah is the authentic Masorah. Okay? It happened when it had to do with the Romans. Yochanan Ish, it was towards the end of the Beis Hamikdash, that time. Because he didn't fulfill the halacha. Could you imagine a person presenting halacha and you catch him smoking a cigarette on Shabbos? Is he credible within the context of halacha? He could be the greatest genius in the world.
Halacha is so out there that no one's going to question him. In other words, he comes and he says, I don't hold like this. You don't say.
He's introducing something which was never stated before. Right. If you bring a get from Voltaire show, the shlichus is not. So this is novel. So if he's that special person, okay, he carries the weight that statement takes on a halachic status. So Rav Yosef says, who said he's that credible? Not only that, I see there's reason to question his credibility.
Every novel interpretation is shot, they don't go and attack the background of the character.
Because that person is already an established person. Abaye, Rav, all these personalities, Rav Kana, these people were known people. How often do you hear Rav Yosef in Shas? Rav Yosef, evidently, Rav Yosef definitely doesn't know him. Or doesn't know him well. He's like a Lahavdil, a new boy on the block over here. Right? He's presenting something that we haven't heard, and we have reason to question. Of course there's question of credibility. Okay? So the Gemara says, Eilu divrei Kim Chayim. What does that mean? Hein zvuv motza v'lo hikbid. Nima motza v'hikbid. Factually, they're both correct. He found the fly, and he found the hair. The fly, he was not makbid, so that's not the reason why she fled. But the Nima, when he found the hair, he was really upset, and therefore she fled. Amr Rav Yehuda, where did he find the fly? Zvuv bakaro. That was found in what? In the dish, in the food. Nima abosa mokum. So Rashi explains that in those days they would remove the what? The pubic hairs, Because there's a question when the husband would cohabit with his wife, the hair could actually cause him to what? To damage his organ. Zvuv mi suso. A zvuv is something which is detestable. Causes the food to take on an inedible status. Nimo sakanto. But the hair is a question of sakana. Ika di amri idi vidi bakaro.
Excuse me, Rabbi, how do we know it's Julie Gersh?
That's the Masorah. That's the Masorah of the story. It's not a euphemism. Not a euphemism. Not a euphemism. What's the euphemism? No, the first version is the hair wasn't in the food. It was not the pubic hair was in the food. She didn't remove the pubic hairs, therefore she put him in a state of danger.
But elsewhere in the Gemara it says the fox doesn't have a problem.
Good. Ika di amri idi vidi bakaro. They were both in the food. Zvuv also. I mean, could you control fly? You could be extra careful, and somehow a fly falls into the food. Nima pshuso of the hair, that's already, it's totally being negligent. You weren't careful enough. Therefore, the second thing, the hair, he was really adamantly against what she done, and therefore she fled. Okay? Amar Rav Chisda, La'olam al yatil odam emi yiser b'soch beiso. A person should not instill overwhelming, the Gemara says in Shabbos, we had a Gemara Rebbe Lezer, the Gemara says that Hashover Kaleb Chamoso, person who breaks vessels when he's angry, kilo of avodah zarah. This is called akois kilo of avodah zarah. A person's angry and loses himself to the degree he breaks vessels in his anger, it's kilo of avodah zarah. Why? So the Gemara says because once a person's out of control and he's overtaken by the Yetzer Hara, he tells you break the vessels. What happens if he tells you to go to avodah zarah? Once a person is in an irrational state, you never know what he can do. You're out of control. Therefore, a person is not permitted to allow himself to enter in that a state of anger because you never know where it could take him. That's anger. And people do things in anger, chas v'sholom, road rage. They kill people, right? They get themselves worked up. It's kilo of avodah zarah. That's it.
Which is, the thing is, Lahabel, by Goyim, they have a plea of temporary insanity, and they get off the hook. Whereas by Yidden, you see, that's not a claim. That's exactly what you're saying. You're not allowed to you're not allowed to use...
But let's say a person is in a state, he is in a state of temporary insanity. Temporary insanity. We hold being out of control, being angry, it's not temporary insanity. There's a valuation of that state. Now, so the Gemara says, but there was an Amora that he used to smash vessels to instill fear in his family. Right? He used to smash the says that was only to instill fear in his family. That is, he used to set the law down. Someone says, what about Tashchis? How does he smash the vessels? It says he broken shards of pottery, that's what he'd break. And someone says, but you're not permitted to get upset. The Gemara says it was only lefonim. It was only facially. Facially, he behaved as if he was upset. But internally, he was not upset. He was not angry. But over there we see it was to matal ema bebeso. A person has to set a certain degree of what? A fear that the family should not cross lines. But this is ema yisero. It's excessive fear. Excessive is a problem. Some levels, you walk in certain homes, you don't know who the father, who the kid is. No? Is the tail leading the dog, or is the dog leading the tail? Yeah, that's some houses. That's the way it is. There's no respect. There's no degree of anything. You have to have, there's a hierarchy. So that's ema. Ema you need. Yisera, that's the problem. It's done excessively. Today they use all these terminologies. Tough love, because that's what the psychiatrist and the psychologist says. Tough love. What is tough love? That before you rein in your kid, you medicate him, and then you could have tough love. Okay, that's today's day and age. Okay. What happened with Pileg Shebegiva? Sharei Pileg Shebegiva Hita Le Bailo Emi Yisera. The story of Pileg Shebegiva was the woman, the concubine. She was terrified of him. She was terrified. The Pilo Kama Revovos Yisrael. As a result of that, there were tens and tens of thousands of people killed in a battle. Shevet Binyamin was nearly totally annihilated. Omer Rav Yudah Omer Rav Kol Amata L'Miseir B'Soch Beiso. Hear this? A person with still excessive fear in his home, so Fuboli de Sholosh Averos. Ultimately, he's going to be in violation of three Averos. Gilei Arayos, Shvichas Domim, V'Chilu Shabbos. So, Rashi, what's Gilei Arayos? A woman is a nida. We had a tosis in Psochim. You know, a woman. When a woman goes to the mikveh, when does she say Ala Tefillah when she immerses herself? Usually, we say all birchas hamitzvah have to be said over Lasei Yosem, right? Preek. So Tosa says, so why when a woman goes to the mikveh, she says it after she immerses herself, right? No, wait. So that's one answer. But Tosa says something else. Tosa says, of course, at one time, let's say a woman would have to go immerse in a river or in a lake, and a woman goes at night. It's not so simple. So, no, it's a question of danger. So what happens? She says the bracha, and she doesn't go into the mikveh. She doesn't go into the river or into the lake. It's a bracha levatola. So because of that reality, therefore, they say, let her first go and immerse herself, and she'll say the bracha afterwards. The other answer is because a ger, a woman converts, she can't say Alat Tefillah. How can she say Asher Kiddushan Mitzvah? She's not commanded, right? She's not Jewish yet. Wait. Okay, now we're going to reveal a secret. You know, people think, their wives, they cover their eyes, they get all emotional. That's why they're covering their eyes. Right? No, they cover their eyes not to benefit from the light. So the bracha should be the equivalent of before you lit the candles. See, the problem is the moment you light, Shabbos begins. So what do? It's only if you benefit from the candles. So she lights it, not to benefit from the lights, and then she says the bracha. So it's the equivalent. The bracha is being said before the lighting. Then she uncovers her eyes, now she sees the light. That's the reason why she covers her eyes, for that reason. Okay? So what's the Gilei Arayos? So let's say the woman, for whatever reason, she wasn't able to go to the mikveh. And she knows her husband's really going to be upset. He's going to be ballistic. So what does she do? She doesn't tell him. And he cohabits with her, and she never went to the mikveh. So therefore, as a result, that's Gilei Arayos. So if they bring a proof from this Gemara, the person has to give his life for Gilei Arayos. It's one of the three cardinal sins. Right? We say Yehorg Vel Yavor. What about it? It's a situation of what? Of Nida. Is it only incest and adultery? What about Nida? Is that classified as Gilei Arayos? Right? So you see from this, they bring the proof from this Gemara. Because you see it's classified as Gilei Arayos. Same thing. So a person would have to actually give his life. A person is cohabit with your own wife when she's in Nida. Right? The halach is Gilei Arayos. Torah says you have to give your life. Separate discussion. Right? But it's Gilei Arayos. So Rashi says either Gilei Arayos, it's Gilei Arayos. What's the proof? What's the Gilei Arayos in this situation? She won't go to the mikveh because she wasn't able to, and she's not going to share it with her husband because she's afraid to say anything. He'll have relations, and he'll be in violation of Gilei Arayos. But if neither is not Gilei Arayos, why is it in violation of Gilei Arayos? So you see, it's considered as extreme as Gilei Arayos.
Even though he has no knowledge of that.
Doesn't make a difference. It's a shogeg. It's good, but the reality is he's cohabiting. It's like a person commits adultery. He doesn't realize it's coming. He thought it was his wife or somebody else's wife. With Paskins, right? Nobody's arguing, Rav. Here we're just bringing out the fact what Amy Asera, excessive fear, what it could bring about. Shvichas Damim. What Shvichas Damim? Shvichas Damim is, right, murder or death. He says, what happens? She's so overwhelmed with fear, she flees from the house, and because she's frantic, she could actually fall somewhere and fall into a pit or something and die, right? Because she's fleeing from the house. So it could cause her actually to lose her life. Chilul Shabbos. What happens if the woman didn't cook a dish that the husband would want, and the husband comes home and the dish is not there ready? So what she'll cook on Shabbos. She'll cook on Shabbos because she's afraid if it's not there, she's going to have a problem. So this is what excessive fear actually can bring about all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
has nothing to do with it. We're talking about excessive fear. Excessive fear we're talking about, he's going to get upset with her. I mean, we're talking ballistic. You know, every time she crosses the line, makes a mistake, it's like World War III. You know, that's the kind of atmosphere he's created in the house. You know, some people have reputations. They have terrible tempers. People stay away from those people. You don't even want to begin talking to the person. You don't want to go near the person. You know, you stay away from that person like the plague. You don't want to go there. Could you imagine a woman living with that kind of man? It's an impossibility. We're not even talking about a battered wife physical sense. I mean, she's battered in every sense of the way. Emotional, mentally, everything else. Okay? Omer Rabba Brachona. Hodom Rabbon Shloshet Vorm Tzoch Odom Lomar Tzoch Beiso Erev Shabbos. We say this in Bemem Alikim, if you daven Ashkenaz. Right? It says the three things a person has to say in his house right before Shabbos. What Isartem? Did you tithe the produce? Because you're not permitted to tithe on Shabbos rabbinically. Iraftem. Was the Erev Chatzera set that you should be able to transport within Rosh Hashanah Yochid from domain to domain? Hadlikos on there. Make sure the candles are lit. Sorach lememro b'neichuso. When you say that to your wife or to the family, you should say it in a gentle manner, not in like a dictate. Why? So that they should what? They should be agreeable to do it. Omer Avashi, Ano lo shamiali, Hoder Rabbi Chana. He says, I never heard this stated in the name of Rabbi Chana. The Kiyamta B'Svara. It's logical. No? If a person, you know, they say, you know, if a person's a mensch, he's a mensch. You're not a mensch, you have to be instructed how to behave. And it's not so simple to instruct that kind of person. But Rav Ashi says, I didn't have to hear what Rabbi Chana said. It's understood. Right? It's like, you know, once mentioned the Marik. There's a tshuva from the Marik. The Shach cites in Yeridea that this woman committed adultery. And if a woman commits adultery b'shogeg, she's not an adulteress. Let's say a person violates Shabbos because he's not aware that you're not permitted to cook. Never was taught he's not permitted to cook. What's the halacha? It's a shogeg. A woman says, you know, I never went to Beis Yaakov. I never knew. They never taught me that you're not permitted to commit adultery. She committed adultery. Is she a shogeg or is it, that's considered amazed? That's what the Marik talks about. Why is it amazed? Well, when you cooked, you knew you were cooking, but you weren't aware that you're not permitted to cook. So he says, when the Torah speaks about the adultery, it says, Umola mal bi'isho. She betrayed her husband. That's the Torah. It doesn't always say Umola mal b'Hashem. Not only did you betray God, you betrayed your husband. What does marriage mean? What does marriage mean? Marriage means exclusivity in this area. This area is not shared with anybody but your husband. You don't have to go to Beis Yaakov to understand. If you're married, it means your husband has exclusivity on anything that relates to intimacy. Violating that, you understand? Then you're out to lunch.
It's also part of the Noahic laws.
Forget about Noahic laws. She came out of a desert. You understand? If you live with any society, marriage means that. That's synonymous with that. Crossing that line, you violated what it is. That's called adultery. You understand? Rav Ashi says, you don't have to tell me how you have to behave. I never heard Rabbi Rachana. Of course, that's why after you speak to your family, b'nei chusa, you have to speak in a civilized manner, not in the excessive, instilling excessive fear.